এটাই বললাম। না ও যেভাবে মাইকে দাঁড়াই ওর গলা শোনা যাবে।
ওটাকে
বলছি তুই এদিকে
চলে এসো। হ্যাঁ 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 ঠিক আছে।
এখানে দাঁড়িয়ে যা।
এটা তো একটু উঁচু করতে হবে।
আমি করে দিচ্ছি, তুই এখানে দাঁড়িয়ে যা।
হুম
ঠিক আছে, এই মাইক এই ডিসটেন্স থাকবে, এদিকে ঘুরে।
আপনি মধ্যখানে থাকুন, তাহলে ওরা ওদিকে ওদিকে হবে। নাকি অল্টারনেট করে দাঁড়াবো?
বলুন আপনি। আমার
অল্টারনেট করে দাঁড়ালে একটা হতে পারে যে তাহলে
শ্রীকান্ত এদিকে চলে
তাহলেই হয়ে যাবে।
হলো, শ্রীকান্ত চলে ম্যাডাম এদিকে দাঁড়িয়ে যান।
ও তাহলেও হবে, হ্যাঁ এটাও হবে।
দিদি আগে আসুন।
এই আমারটা একটু উঁচু করে দিতে হবে।
ঐশিক কোথায়? না ঐশিক ট্র্যাকটা তো চালাতে হবে। ঐশিক
হ্যালো,
কিছু অন করা নেই, আমি একটা করে অন করছি। এখন অন করবো,
দেখে নি ওই ভয়েসটা দেখে নি,
তুমি এক কাজ করো,
একটু ভয়েসটা দেখে নি।
3-4 অন করো।
হ্যালো 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 হ্যালো
হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো এই আলো ফেলছে, সে ফেল
এখন ফেলবে। ঠিক আছে, ওকে রেডি, ঠিক আছে।
হ্যালো 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 এটা তো বন্ধ হচ্ছে, হ্যালো 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 আর কি করবো, একবার দেখে নেবো। লোকজন শুনে নেবে। ঠিক আছে, শোনা যাচ্ছে না না থাক না, আর দরকার নেই, চেক করা হলো। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
ঠিক আছে, আমি এখানে আছি।
ও ঠিক আছে, বেশ এতদিন স্যার জিজ্ঞাসা করুন।
ঠিক আছে? Good afternoon everyone, please settle down. We extend a very warm welcome to everyone present here, especially the guests for today's event. We all have gathered here today to celebrate the 95th Foundation Day of ISI, which started its journey long back in the year 1931 under the able leadership of Professor Prashanto Chandra Mahalanobis. Years have passed. Indian Statistical Institute is still glowing in its own glory in the world of education. Before we proceed, I would request all of you, please keep your mobile phones in silent mode. We will start today's event by the Vedic hymn performed by ISI Club.
समीक्षांसि जानताम् समानो मन्त्रः समीति समानी समानो मन्त्रः समीति समानी समानं मनसः संगच्छध्वं संवदाध्वं संगो मनांसि जानताम् समानीव आकुति समाना हृदयानिव समानीव आकुति समाना हृदयानिव समानमस्तु वो मनो यथा सुसहासति संगच्छध्वं संवदाध्वं संगो मनांसि जानताम् संगच्छध्वं संवदाध्वं संगो मनांसि जानताम्
Thank you to all the participants. Now I would like to invite on stage Professor Pranav Bardhan, Chief Guest of today's event, Professor Shanghamitra Bandyopadhyay, Officiating Director ISI, and Professor Pradipta Bandyopadhyay, Chairperson Cultural Committee ISI, to inaugurate the event by lighting the lamp. Now, Professor Shanghamitra Bandyopadhyay will felicitate Dr. Pranav Bardhan, Chief Guest for today's event. I will request Professor Shankhamitra Bandyopadhyay, Officiating Director ISI, to address the audience.
Good afternoon to all of you. The chief guest of today's program, Professor Pranab Bardhan, Professor Pradipta Bandyopadhyay, all distinguished guests in the audience, colleagues, students, members of the press, all guests. Thank you very much for joining us today on this occasion of the Foundation Day of the Indian Statistical Institute. I just noted that our chief guest of today's function, who will also be receiving the C.R. Rao Centenary Gold Medal from the Indian Econometric Society today, he was born about 8 years after ISI was founded. So I just noted that you all sort of, both ISI and Professor Bardhan sort of grew up together. And just before this start of this event, we were discussing, and he had very nice anecdotes to tell about the experiences that he had with Professor Maulana, who founded this institute. And very interesting, something which probably is also relevant today. So this Foundation Day, 95th Foundation Day of the Institute, we've come a long way from when it started in 1931 on 17th of December in Presidency College. And it so happens again that Professor Bardhan is an alumnus of that college. I am also I also studied in that college. I did my BSc Physics from there. So it's a close connect with Presidency College, which hosted this institute when it started, and today it is spread all over the country in various locations. And the reputation of ISI, we hope and we believe from what we hear from the outside world, remains as high as ever. What we have to really work together is to ensure that that reputation continues, because ISI is that reputation. ISI is the students we produce. ISI is the research we do. That is what ISI is. And I hope we will all work together to ensure that that flag is kept flying high. We have a number of programs today, including a talk by Professor Bardhan, and I'm sure we are all looking forward to that, and a very interesting cultural program towards the end. So I will not take too much time. I will just let the evening's proceedings go ahead. I will not stand in between the program and all of you. I am also looking forward to Professor Bardhan's lecture and also the cultural program that will follow. I wish all of you once again a very happy Foundation Day and many happy returns of this day to this institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful speech. Now I will request our chief guest for today's event, Professor Pranab Bardhan, to say a few words. Sir. Professor Bardhan is an emeritus of economics at the University of California, Berkeley.
Since Shankhamitra just referred to my anecdotes about Professor Maulana, I should tell you that as a matter of self-promotion, I have written 2 memoirs, one in Bengali called Sriti Konduyon, and the other more recently published by HarperCollins in Delhi called Charaivati, an Academic's Global Journey. In both, there are quite a few pages on Maulana, and there are lots of anecdotes about ISI. And I was referring to some of them to Sanghamitra. But I also met Professor Maulanabish a few times. In fact, there are hilarious accounts of the first time I met him, not here, but in Chicago. That's where I first met him. I was teaching at MIT at that time. But so if you're interested in the stories about Mahalanobis, stories about ISI, stories about really great colleagues that I had and great students that I had. I was working mostly in Delhi ISI planning unit, but in the summer months, Delhi was so hot, I made a condition of my appointment that in the summer months, I'll be spending here in the Kolkata unit. So I spent quite a bit of time in this unit at that time. So if you're interested in stories, please read my either the Bengali memoir or the more recent English memoir. I will not take any more time because I'm supposed to give a lecture, so I'll wait until then, and I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we are not yet done with the felicitation. I would like to request our Dean of Studies, Professor Vishwabroto Pradhan, to felicitate sir. Now, Professor Pradipta Bandyopadhyay, Cultural Committee, Chair Cultural Committee, will say a few words.
Actually, our president, Professor Shankar Pal, was supposed to be here, but he is not well, so he is not coming today. And therefore, I should not probably take any time longer than what I am supposed to talk about, and I hardly have anything to say, except that we are happy that TIES actually decided to host this, have this program with us on this day, on our foundation day. And so that actually probably gave a different kind of impetus to this program today. And I thank them for it. And of course, that also gave us the opportunity to have Professor Bardhan as our chief guest today. Otherwise, probably he wouldn't have come to ISI on this day. And so organizing this kind of a program is, of course, something that needs a bit of early planning. Unfortunately, I was made the chair of this committee probably less than a month ago. So I claim absolutely no responsibility on this program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would again like to invite members of ISI Club to present Robindra Sangeet on this auspicious occasion. While they are getting ready, let me quickly mention the names of the participants. Monali Mitra Palodhi, Obhijit Ganguly, Minu Das, Sanchari Ghosh, and Srijan Chatterjee.
কিন্তু তখন আর এই টেবিল টেবিল কিছু থাকবে না হয়তো, কেন স্ক্রিনটা দেখতে
এটা দুজন দাঁড়িয়ে সুদর্শন দা তুমি অ্যাড করো তুমি
ও এখানে সব একসঙ্গে তাহলে এটাই চলে
হ্যালো 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 হ্যালো
হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো
হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো
হ্যালো
জগত জুড়ে উদার সুরে আনন্দ গান বাজে জগত জুড়ে উদার সুরে আনন্দ গান বাজে সে গান কবে গভীর হবে বাজিবে হিয়া মাঝে জগত জুড়ে উদার সুরে আনন্দ গান বাজে বাতাস জল আকাশ আলো সবার কবে বাসিব ভালো বাতাস জল আকাশ আলো সবার কবে বাসিব ভালো হৃদয় সভা জুড়িয়া কারা বসিবে নানা সাজে হৃদয় সভা জুড়িয়া তারা বসিবে নানা সাজে জগত জুড়ে উদার সুরে আনন্দ গান বাজে নয়ন দুটি মেলিলে কবে পরানো হবে খুশি নয়ন দুটি মেলিলে কবে পরানো হবে খুশি যে পথ দিয়া চলিয়া যাব সবারে যাব তুষি রয়েছ তুমি এ কথা কবে জীবন মাঝে সহজ হবে রয়েছ তুমি এ কথা কবে জীবন মাঝে সহজ হবে আপনি কবে তোমারি নাম ধনিবে সব কাজে আপনি কবে তোমারি নাম ধনিবে সব কাজে জগৎ জুড়ে উদার সুরে আনন্দ গান বাজে জগৎ জুড়ে উদার সুরে আনন্দ গান বাজে আনন্দ গান বাজে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে ডাইনে বায়ে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে সুপ্তে ছুটে নিত্য উঠে নিত্য নূতন সংঘাতে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে বাজে ফুলে বাজে কাটায় আলো ছায়ার জোয়ার ভাটায় বাজে ফুলে বাজে কাটায় আলো ছায়ার জোয়ার ভাটায় প্রাণের মাঝে ওই যে বাজে প্রাণের মাঝে ওই যে বাজে দুঃখে সুখে সংকাতে নিত্য নূতন সংঘাতে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে কালে কালে সাত সকালে রূপসাগরে ঢেউ লাগে সাদা কালোর দ্বন্দ্বে যে ওই ছন্দে নানান রং জাগে রূপসাগরে ঢেউ লাগে তালে তালে সাত সকালে রূপসাগরে ঢেউ লাগে সাদা কালোর দ্বন্দ্বে যে ওই ছন্দে নানান রং জাগে রূপসাগরে ঢেউ লাগে এই তালে তোর গান বেঁধেলে কান্না হাসির গান সে ধেলে এই তালে তোর গান বেঁধেলে কান্না হাসির গান সে ধেলে ডাক দিল শোন মরণ বাচন ডাক দিল শোন মরণ বাচন নাচন সভার ডঙ্কাতে নিত্য নূতন সংঘাতে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে ডাইনে বায়ে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে মন্দিরাজে সদাই বাজে।
Thank you to all the participants. Now we'll move on to our next program of conferment of Professor C.R. Rao Centenary Gold Medal to Professor Pranab Bardhan by the Indian Econometric Society. I would like to invite Dr. R.P. Burman to brief about Professor C.R. Rao Centenary Gold Medal, which has been instituted by the Indian Econometric Society.
Distinguished members present here and friends. I think I stand here on behalf of the Indian Econometric Society to be a part of this special event to confer on Professor Pranab Bardhan the C.R. Rao Centenary Gold Medal in recognition of lifelong outstanding contribution in the area of economics, particularly development economics, with great distinction. We are highly thankful to Indian Statistical Institute and the director of the institute for organizing on behalf of the Indian Econometric Society. Now, this audience is very familiar with Professor C.R. Rao. I need not tell much about him. The most important thing is that he is the founder president of Indian Econometric Society, 1970 onwards. And today, I think we are in the 60th year of our Indian Econometric Society event. This will be held in Kolhapur. The society has made a long journey, and there are a whole lot of great people associated with it. But I must say, ISI played a very, very singular role in advancing the cause of econometrics throughout the country. And the Indian econometricians are there all over the world today. Now, talking about Professor C.R. Rao, he received the Padma Vibhushan, the highest award. We are in fact looking forward to even a Bharat Ratna to be conferred on him, because the kind of a contribution he made is singularly important, particularly in the area of statistics and theoretical statistics. Internationally also, he received very, very high distinctions, including International Statistical Institute offering him, giving him a prestigious international prize in statistics, Guy Medal, and that kind of a thing. So he is a doyen of statistics. So in his 100th year, we in the society thought that we will institute this gold medal in his honor. So our first recipient of the gold medal was Professor Jagdish Bhagavati and Dr. Sri Rangarajan. 2022, we gave this award to Professor Avinash Dixit, another great economist and econometrician, and 2024 to Professor Pranab Bardhan by a committee, and which Indian Econometric Society Trust was also very closely associated with it. Professor K.L. Krishna, who is our mentor, who guides us in each and every step, and his enthusiasm is never lacking. Even today, in spite of being not keeping so well, he is in our midst. So he knows Professor Bardhan very well for a long many years. So I'll request Professor K.L. Krishna to talk about him. With this, let me hand over to Professor K.L. Krishna.
Thank you, sir. Now, Professor K.L. Krishna will introduce Professor Pranab Bardhan. So you can stand and speak.
No, fine, fine.
Distinguished participants in this event, um, I'm extremely happy to be here today um, to felicitate my former colleague and of course a friend, um, Pranab Bardhan. I also must mention that I'm happy that to say to all of you, some of you may be knowing, I was a student here under C.R. Rao in the Research and Training School 1956-58 when ISI celebrated its Silver Jubilee. On that occasion, world-renowned statisticians including Ronald Fisher was here for the Silver Jubilee function, and I was very happy to come to know some of them. I would also like to mention that Professor Pranab Bardhan was my colleague in Delhi School of Economics, not too long. I was there for 42 years. He was there only for a few years because he was very much in demand all over the world. Very well-known political specialist in political economy of development and international trade. Of course, he began his career in international trade. I met him, I think must say, for the first time in Chicago when he came to see Harry Johnson, a very renowned tradesman in Chicago. That was in early 1960s. So our association has continued. Again, I met him at the Delhi School of Economics when he was teaching for a few years. And I think his lifelong contributions in development economics, especially the political economy of development, has been admired by a very number of eminent economists, including the Nobel laureate Abhijit Banerjee, Donny Roderick, Tim Besley, and so on. I think it's a countless number of his admirers. I must also say that at Delhi School of Economics, he mingled freely with both sociologists and economists. Among economists, of course, K.N. Raj, like Amartya Sen, Sukhma Chakravarti. I think some of them might have left, but they were associated with Delhi School of Economics. Sukhma Chakravarti continued till 1990, I think, in Delhi School until his untimely demise. Another common friend of ours is Mrinal Datta Chaudhary. I think a very lovable person, very good conversationalist and dear friend. And Pranab Bardhan also had friends in Andre Bete, Veena Das. So he's a long list of friends. And so in this sense, I represent all of them in felicitating him on this occasion. His many books he has written, I think the citation will mention them. Important ones are Awakening Giants, Feet of Clay, Assessing the Economic Rise of China and India in 2001. These are some of the recent books. And the second one to be mentioned is World of Insecurity, Democratic Disenchantment in Rich and Poor Countries. I think, and the last book which I think he has authored is Charity Veti, an academician's global journey. It was published in 2023. I think I took several hours reading that book. Very enjoyable, very informative, comprehensive. Of course, he has commented in a favorable way or sometimes adversely among all his economist friends and other sociologists and so on. Therefore, it is a highly readable book. I took several times to read it. And I think I must also mention that his PhD student, Sudipta Mandal, he was president of the Indian Econometric Society last year. So, in fact, in picking up Pranav for this honor of, I think I was influenced by so many eminent economists. It's not, and of course my friends in the Econometric Society, they all supported me, and I am very happy that we are here to confer the C.R. Rao Award. As I mentioned, C.R. Rao was my teacher in 1956-58, and he persuaded me to be the managing editor of the Journal of Quantitative Economics when it was founded in 1980s. And I carried on that duty for 10 years, and the journal is doing very well. I think I must also say that my dear friend V.R. Panchamukhi, I think, who is the chairman of the Indian Econometric Society Trust, for health reasons, he could not come here. I'm in a sense deputizing for him. So I think I don't want to take much of your time. I think we are all very fortunate that Pranab is here to receive the C.R. Rao Centenary Award. The fourth one, I think, first three are Jagdish Bhagwati, C. Rangarajan, and Avinash Dikshit, and now fourth is Pranab Bardhan. I am very, very happy and I congratulate him, and I will not take more of your time.
So would you like to have a chair? Because the felicitation is there, so please stay back. So would you like to have a chair to sit? Thank you, sir. Now we will move on to the felicitation program. Professor Neeraj Hatekar, President TIS, will hand over the bouquet. And before that, I would like to invite on stage Professor Bardhan once again. In the middle. Thank you, sir. So please stay back. Now, Professor K.L. Krishna will confer the medal and shawl to Professor Bardhan.
No problems this winter. So many shawls and
Medal. Now, Professor M. Ramchandran, Life Trustee TIS, will hand over the certificate to Professor Bardhan. Thank you. Thank you to all our guests. I would request Professor Bardhan to please stay back. Now he will deliver the award lecture.
হ্যাঁ দেখিয়ে দিচ্ছি।
পকেটে দিয়ে দিন। দেখি আমি দেখছি এই তো ডান দিকে এটা হ্যাঁ মিডলটা পকেটে। আমি একটু ক্লিকারটা চেক করি। ও ওটা আসুন। ওকে হ্যাঁ আমি একটু এখানে বলি। Before because I'm overwhelmed by all the honors bestowed on me, deserved or not, let me start, first of all, two things, paying homage to one institution and one great statistician. The institution is Indian Econometric Society. In fact, I'm not sure, KLK, who's a longtime friend of mine, he mentioned about the journal Quantitative Economics. I think it actually started earlier. When I joined Indian Statistical Institute Delhi unit in 1969, the journal Quantitative Economics started around that time, but it was not an independent journal. It was part of Sankhya, which is the Journal of Statistics, Sankhya Part B. And the first editors of Quantitative Economics was myself and T.N. Srinivasan. And we edited that journal for some years, and then others took over. But I think after some years, it became an independent journal. The other thing I wanted to mention is to pay my homage to Dr. C.R. Rao, one of the greatest statisticians in the whole world of all times. I had the great fortune to meet him very closely in the Delhi unit of the ISI, in the Yojana Bhavan. Those days, the new campus was not yet built. So we were all in Yojana Bhavan, the Planning Commission building. If I remember right, 6th floor. And there, every day in the lunchtime, we used to take lunch all together in the room of Professor B.S. Minas. And Dr. Rao used to come almost every day to that lunch. And of course, Dr. Rao is, we all, TN used to call him his guru, TN Srinivasan, used to call him his guru. We all knew how great a statistician he was. And so, as I was saying, I had the great fortune to meet him because at that time he was the director of ISI and he decided to be in Delhi much of the time at that time. I also remember one of the great theorems of mathematical statistics is the Rao-Blackwell theorem. And I had the great fortune to meet Professor David Blackwell in Berkeley. So he was a professor in the Berkeley Statistics Department. And I personally came to know him when a senior professor in economics, of whom he had David Blackwell as a good personal friend, so he once brought Professor Blackwell to my apartment and we all went out somewhere. So, and in fact, in my memoir, I talk about that event of my meeting and going out on a trip with Professor David Blackwell. So I'm very fortunate of the two authors of the great Rao-Blackwell theorem, coming to know them. Let me, I'll not take much time, but just one more anecdote. I'm a person given to anecdotes, which you will, as I already told you, you will see in my memoirs. One anecdote which I do not state in my memoir, C.R. Rao told me something from which I actually benefited financially. And I'll tell you that anecdote. So he once told me, when I joined ISI in Delhi, he told me that he had written, apart from great contribution statistics, he had also some very important textbooks in statistics. And at that time, a famous textbook of his, he was referring to Dr. Rao. He told me, you know, it's been published by John Wiley in New York, but for some years, I'm not getting any royalties. I said to him, no, that cannot be true, because after all, that's a very well-known textbook. Lots of people must be buying it. He said, no, I'm not getting any royalty. And then he told me, after a few weeks, he said, you know what? There's a big scandal. I am not getting my royalties from the New York office of John Wiley because, and this happens all the time in India, but it's in New York. He said, somebody in that publisher's office grabbed the checks and opened a bank account in C.R. Rao's name. It's actually a fake account. It's his account. And he used to deposit the C.R. Rao textbook royalty checks there. So that's what Dr. Rao told me. And I immediately thought about, because my first book, immediately after doing my PhD dissertation was published as a book by John Wiley. And then I realized I am not receiving any royalty either of that book. And I assumed because nobody is reading my book. So I then immediately wrote to the New York office, why am I not receiving my royalty? Is it nobody buying the book? They said, no, we have been regularly sending you checks. So somebody opened an account in another bank in my name, and the checks were being deposited there. Fortunately, John Wiley then covered all the lost checks, both Dr. Rao and to me. Mine is a small amount, but Dr. Rao, huge amounts were finally restored. That's an anecdote I do not say in the memoir, but I thought I would share with you. So I have very fond memories of Dr. Rao from those days. There are some more anecdotes about Dr. Rao in my memoir. So let me now hurry on to my lecture. What I'm going to do, essentially, I should skip quite a bit of my lecture, partly because there's not that much time, but also I want to tell you that since I know a significant fraction of the audience here may not be economists, so mine is not going to be a technical, standard technical economics lecture. It will be addressed as well to non-economists. Because the issue that I'm going to talk about is, I think, is important, not just in economics, but in the whole the world of social thinking. So most people have heard that there's a lot of inequality in the world. Economic inequality, I'm not at the moment talking about social inequality. And usually the data on inequality that usually people talk about these days, the data is about what proportion of total income or wealth is in the hands of the top 10%, top 1%, etc. But that is not the type of inequality I'm going to concentrate on. I'm going to talk about an inequality in older classical economic sense, where the distribution of income or wealth was in terms of capital, how much share going to capital, how much share going to labor, because my focus is on labor. So if you look at the data, about share of total income or wealth going to the top 10% or top 1%, that if you look at those data worldwide, you will see that it has gone up in most countries, but not in all countries. Just to give you an example, if you look at UK, you could look at France, that inequality is not increasing. It is high, but it's not increasing. But if you look at capital share or labor share is declining in most countries. So that's an important distinction. And I give some suggestion, some citation of labor share decline, if you want to follow up on the actual data. Now, the main reason for this, of course, much of the technology today is labor saving. In other words, it replaces labor. And that, by the way, is also true of the technology that is coming, that is artificial intelligence, is highly labor replacing. Although a lot of people think that we can shape it toward a more labor using rather than labor replacing direction. But at the moment, the trend is toward labor replacing. And globalization, and I'll tell you later why globalization tends to reduce labor share. But another important reason, an institutional reason, is that labor organizations all over the world are declining. For example, trade unions are getting less important in manufacturing. I'm not talking about trade unions in public institutions. I'm talking about trade unions in factories, in production. And they are declining all over the world, declining in strength, declining in membership, etc. And of course, there are various factors behind the weakening of labor movements, and I add, skipping here, some cases of self-harming tendencies of short-sighted trade unions themselves, because I have a lot of experience of short-sighted trade unions, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about long-term trends. Employers in both the United States, I'm going to talk primarily of India, but I'll also refer to some other countries, particularly United States. Employers both in US and India, in general, are more anti-union, anti-manufacturing and production unions than, say, in Europe. What they, by doing so, by being so anti-union, they actually sometimes cause problems for themselves. Let me give you an example from India. And this is from production, manufacturing production. Take the recent case of worker unrest taking a violent form in December 2020 in Wistron's iPhone assembly factory near Bangalore. This was a factory that employed about 2,000 regular employees and 7,000 contract workers. This is, by the way, an increasing feature of Indian production. Large number of contract workers who do not have any benefits, pensions, or quite often they do not have benefits, pensions or other benefits for workers, but often doing similar kind of work. So you can see the number, 2,000 regular employees, 7,000 contract workers without benefits. And there was no labor union in that factory. The grievances that inflamed many workers included inordinately delayed payments of wages and an extension of the workday to 12 hours without much notice, or 12 hours a day without much notice or consultation. See, 12 hours reminded me of something that I read many years back in Karl Marx's Capital. Marx talks about 12-hour day. This is, Marx was writing about early 19th century Britain, where before the Factory Act, workers were hired for more than 12 hours a day. And Marx said, this is actually not merely hurts workers, it hurts capitalists. Why? And he gives examples. He said, like in agriculture, sometimes you want to keep the land fallow to improve its productivity. If you work too hard with the land, land's productivity will go down. So he said there's similar logic for restricting the number of hours of work for factory workers. Later in Britain, the Factory Act reduced the number of hours. I'll come back to the issue of 12 hours work a little later. This is in Marx Capital, Volume 1. In India, what I was referring to, that some of the problems of violence that the iPhone factory faced in Bangalore could have been avoided if the trade unions organized the thing, because then you could have negotiated settlement of the issues. Another problem that we are facing in recent years, there's been substantial dilution, if not outright gutting, of workplace safety regulations. This is also something trade unions used to be very much try to control. So, and many attribute the recent rise in industrial accidents to this wanton deregulation. In the United States, there is evidence that union busting for coal workers have sometimes led to more accidents in mines. By the way, it's not here, but I can tell you in China, where there are no trade unions, there's no effective trade unions. There are some government trade unions, but in general, there's no effective trade union. I once looked at the data when in connection with my China-India book. I found that in China, accidents, fatalities due to accidents in coal mines is many times higher than in India. It's largely because there is no, you see, there's no democracy, there's also no real trade unions to look after the safety of workers. In rich countries, unorganized informal workers' number is increasing because the so-called gig economy, for example, the delivery services, etc., are very important today, and they are like informal workers. And of course, in developing countries, the proportion of informal workers is very high. In Latin America, the proportion of informal workers is about 55% on average. In India, of course, about 90% of workers can be described as informal workers, 90%. So for example, you have read in newspapers about the labor codes, 4 labor codes that the government after a few years have decided to implement. Those labor codes do not apply to the informal workers. So they do not, the labor codes by and large do not apply to 90% of our workers. One of the reasons why trade unions or labor organizations are getting weaker is because of what I call labor fragmentation. Labor is fragmented in various ways, by skill, by gender, by production sector. What do I mean by that? In general, in the manufacturing sector and transportation sector, unions are stronger. Service sector, there are very few unions, particularly in India, in US and in Europe, there are now service sector unions. In India, there are very few service sector unions. Of course, the main fragmentation in countries like ours is formal-informal division. So all the benefits that trade unions agitate for apply to that 10% of workers. 90% of the workers do not benefit from labor movement. And that's the reason the labor movement is highly divided in India and therefore weaker. Informal workers, now there are being attempts to organize them. I give some example. United States and Canada, the service sector unions. Europe's largest industrial union, Germany's IG Metall, now opening up for self-employed informal workers. There's the Independent Workers Union of Great Britain trying to reach out to gig workers. In India, the largest informal workers organization is SEVA, Self-Employed Women's Association, with about 3 million members. That's the largest. During the pandemic, the Indian Federation of App-Based Transport Workers organized drivers of ride-hailing apps and delivery workers and so on. So there are attempts that are now being made. Another reason why labor organizations are getting weaker is because of corporate concentration. This is a worldwide phenomenon. United States has a lot of data that capital is getting more and more concentrated, and therefore labor's bargaining power is getting weaker. Let me give you data just suggest some data from India. In India, Viral Acharya has estimated that in the period 2016 to 2021, the concentration, particularly in the top 5 business groups, has increased sharply, largely through mergers and acquisition. What are these big 5 conglomerates in India? Tatas, Aditya Birla, Mukesh Ambani, Gautam Adani, and the 5th is Sunil Bharti Mittal, who have the Airtel. These are the 5 largest conglomerates of India. These big conglomerates are in over 40, NIC means National Industrial Classification, 2-digit sectors covering much of the non-financial corporate India. We have a competition commission, but the competition commission so far has been rather toothless in stopping this increased monopoly, oligopoly power in the hands of the big conglomerates. This leads to, among other effects, this leads to what economists call monopsony in the labor market. For non-economists, let me just tell you, monopsony means monopoly of buying power. So since capital is buying labor, so capital gets a monopoly in the hiring of labor. As a result, wages get depressed, employment get depressed. And monopsony of in the labor market, there's some evidence. Unfortunately, evidence is mostly from other countries. I wish more researchers in India measure monopsony. I'll tell you about my own work. Many years back, 1980s, I published a book called Land, Labor and Rural Poverty. There I looked into monopsony in the rural labor market. I found quite a bit of evidence. This is in my book, Land, Labor and Rural Poverty. And there's some more evidence in recent years, but this is all in the rural. There's very few studies of monopsony in the urban manufacturing service markets. Let me skip that. We have some evidence in the United States. For example, this work shows that employer monopsony power reduces labor share by 22%. There's some evidence in Peru. And in the United States, there's some estimate that labor on average received only about 2/3 of the value of marginal product of labor. So it gets much lower than even the marginal product of labor. And that's because of monopsony. And this is big, the reason is capital concentration. Obviously, anti-monopoly policies is a possible remedy, but as I already said, our competition commission seems to be toothless about that. And let me skip some of this now. There's quite a bit of literature on this. Now, I'm going to draw more upon the European experience. In Europe, capitalism is not as hostile to labor as in the United States or India. As I already told you, United States and India, capitalists are quite often anti-union. Not so in much of Europe, Western Europe particularly. And there are several ways in which, even keeping much of the economy under capitalism, labor is giving more importance. And there are several ways, and let me mention a few. One is allowing labor to form workers' cooperative. Workers' cooperative is a very important way of giving labor some power. And if you want examples from India, again, the largest workers' cooperative is by women in India. SEVA, I already told you, has 3 million members. SEVA is again the largest workers' cooperative in India, mostly informal workers. If you leave out SEVA, one of the largest women's cooperative in India of about 45,000 members is Lijjat Papad. It's a very large women's cooperative in India. And then there are some in Kerala that I mentioned. But that's not the only way to give labor some more power. Another way is give labor voice in the running of the company. Now this may sound strange to you. How do you give labor voice? Not just through trade unions. And the best example in the whole world is Germany. You know about these big German companies, giant companies? If you take the giant German companies, if you look how those companies are governed, if you look at the board of governors in Germany, German factories and German manufacturing sector, about half of the members of the German factories, a board of governors of German factories are labor representatives. Labor select and elect representatives in the German board of governors. Sometimes this is called, there's a German name for it, it's called Breitbart or Worker Council. Let me see. Okay, so I give, I'll tell you why that is important. It is important not merely for labor's own welfare, they get better wages, better terms, but much more than that. Society as a whole gains because, for example, in companies where labor has an important voice, I already told you large German companies, half of the board members are from workers representative. By the way, because half of the representative workers, many of them are women. So women get an important voice in the running of the company than in the United States, than in India, in Germany, or some other European countries. But more than that, the other way society gains is that board of governors also decides how much, in which direction R&D, which is research and development, money will go. So when labor has a voice, they tend to put more resources in R&D that is toward developing technology that labor using rather than labor replacing. This is very important, as I already told you, that in the coming technology of artificial intelligence, currently it's going toward labor replacing. So people will see estimates of how many jobs will vanish because of artificial intelligence. But that's not inevitable. If labor has a voice, labor will push new research, even in AI, toward labor using rather than labor replacing. Not all AI technology is labor replacing. So in what direction new research will go, labor can have a voice. And there are such other benefits of labor voice in the corporate governance. And then, of course, how corporates, in fact, if you look at election funding, two countries, the two largest democracies, United States and India, I would say both are now flawed democracies. In both countries, largely money is very important. Which party has the most source of money is extremely important in deciding political changes. Whereas in Europe and Canada, money is much less important and public funding of elections is more important. In my book, World of Insecurity, there's a whole section on election financing. And India and the United States, in some respects, are the worst among all these countries that I discuss. Labor then has a voice in which direction, which parties will be supported, because much of it is public funding of elections, not private funding of elections. And labor takes an important role there. And I already told you, I'm going to skip this. There's now a lot of work going on about labor's voice in the corporate governance. And in my book, World of Insecurity, there's quite a bit on how to improve labor's voice. There's now a lot of econometric work, actually, on looking at the effect of increasing voice. Most of the time, the data were observational, and the general conclusion is that when you improve labor's voice, not merely labor gains, productivity improves. And I discussed the Japanese system, I discussed the German system, and so on. There's a lot of evidence that productivity itself improves. But I will skip some of this. So this is my last slide. Those who work on labor economics know there's this great economist, Robert Solow, who has written on growth theory. One of his later books is called Labor Market as a Social Institution. And Solow, he's not a radical economist. He was saying, unlike other markets, labor market is different. Labor market is not like your vegetable market, because labor involves human beings. And to motivate human beings, you just cannot exploit them in the way you normally do. By underpaying them or by making work conditions difficult, you may, as a capitalist, you may save money, but ultimately you hurt yourself because productivity is affected. And so Solow's book title is Labor Market is not like other market, it's a social institution. And we have to, you have to keep that in mind in looking at the work conditions, in wages, etc. Going back, let me go back to the 12-hour day thing, which I already told you. Karl Marx talked about quite a bit in Capital. And what is rather ironical, today in India, several states, not West Bengal, but several, particularly South Indian states, have installed 12-hour workday, something that Marx wrote against in the early, referring to early 19th century Britain. This is somewhat short-sighted because 12-hour a day is a drain on worker productivity. Just an example, there are similar things going on. So you save money in the short run. I'm talking about capitalists. Capitalists save money in the short run, but they lose money in the long run. And Marx said something that I want to end on. Marx said, in so many words, he said, sometimes capitalism needs to be saved from the capitalists. And this is because they are short-sighted sometimes. And I think how they deal with labor is part of that short-sightedness, particularly in countries like US and India. So essentially, my plea with those of you who study work conditions, labor economics, etc., plea is that capital and labor are regarded as adversaries. But in long run sense, if you are, even as a capitalist, interested in labor productivity, and labor productivity has a lot of influence from how you treat labor. So treating labor well is a good capitalist policy, which many of our businessmen overlook. Let me end there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your lecture. We are actually honored. Now I would like to invite on stage Professor Neeraj Hatekar, President TIES, to present the vote of thanks on behalf of TIES.
It is my pleasant duty today to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the Indian Econometric Society. First and foremost, gratitude goes to Professor Pranab Bardhan, both for accepting the gold medal as well as enlightening us with his very insightful lecture today. Many of us have grown up around Professor Bardhan's work, and his work has shaped the worldviews of many practicing economists like me. So thank you very much, sir, for being here today and honoring this occasion. The jury for the gold medal deserve thanks from the TIES. They worked very diligently and made sure that the the honor goes to the right person. So I also thank the members of the jury, especially Professor K.L. Krishna, who has been a mentor and a guiding light to the Indian Econometric Society. So thank you very much, sir. Finally, I thank the Indian Statistical Institute, its officiating director, the staff and the faculty for hosting this program. The Indian Econometric Society was born here, so in that sense our umbilical cord gets traced to the Indian Statistical Institute, and it's but apt that the Indian Statistical Institute has provided the facilities and helped us host this function. So thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, we will now proceed to the inauguration of our Creative Corner, and for this part of this program, I would invite Dr. Shomunetra Munshi to moderate this event.
Thank you, Srimai. Creative Corner is a first of its kind initiative in ISI, which is basically an online space for the writers, painters, people who draw to have their talent showcased. So Creative Corner is actually the culmination of a long dream of like-minded lovers of writings who have explored the wilderness of creativity silently and patiently. And this endeavor wouldn't have seen the light of the day had it not been for the constant support and encouragement of our director, Professor Sanghamitra Bandyopadhyay, right from the word go. So Creative Corner started with a student walking into my office in 2022 saying, "Ma'am, I didn't know anything other than maths happens in this place. Ma'am, I didn't know people wrote here." And she was referring to the writing contest that we usually hold as part of the Women's Day celebrations on and around 8th March. So she had submitted a writing and there were other submissions, and probably she won and she's here today. Please come on stage, all of you. So, so this is Rashmi. She's the person who walked in my office and said, "Ma'am, I didn't know that people do other things than maths over here." And Rashmi walked in my office and Creative Corner was born in my mind. I realized that there needed to be a space in the institute somewhere where writers could know each other, could share their writings. Because I didn't know the space would be called Creative Corner at that time, but I knew there had to be something. Because writers are generally very lonely people, shying away from limelight, from attention, from publicity. Especially people like Rashmi who come from other states, leaving behind family, leaving behind friends, it's very hard and very lonely for them. So they take shelter in writing, whoever writes. So being a writer is a lot like being a traveler, but the traveling is inside you. The traveling is alone and traveling is within yourself. So Kamala Das writes in my story, "One's real world is not what is outside him. It is the immeasurable world inside him that is real. Only the one who has decided to travel inwards will realize that this route has no end." And she further writes, just expressing the loneliness of what writers feel, "As I wrote more and more, the circles I was compelled to move in, I became lonelier and lonelier. I felt that my loneliness was like a red brand on my face. In company, when there were dinners at any friend's house, I sat still like a statue, feeling the cruel vibrations all around me. I withdrew into the cave I had made for myself, where I wrote stories and poems and became safe and anonymous. There were books all around me, but no friend to give me well-meaning advice, no relative telling me of my discrediting my family name by my unconventional ways of thinking. We call our cave that we've created for ourselves Creative Corner." This forum is primarily intended as a platform for informal and unofficial exchange and sharing of ideas that many of us write from time to time but are unsure who to show to. Constructive criticism from a thoughtful and understanding audience also helps improve compositions and styles. Often as we grow older, especially with mounting academic pressures, it becomes harder and harder to pursue one's passions. This forum should make that a bit easier for aspiring writers. And other than writing, we also, there are photographs and there are pictures, sketches, paintings, which are also going to be showcased here. So here's Creative Corner for you. May I please request, and Mola Bhattacharya, who is my colleague, and this Creative Corner wouldn't have come to being had it not been for his assistance, his help, his support for this right from the beginning, because the entire technical aspect of this has been his contribution. So Mola, can you please just show us the platform?
No, not needed. এইটা আসবে এই জিনিসটা Sorry, my voice is bad today. So this is the address through which we can go to the Creative Corner. If you just click on this, this is the link here, and you can access the the volumes there. Over to you.
Thank you. So we are still in the process of developing this. As you can see, there's the first volume, which has the submissions that were there. And the second volume is going to be, so we are hoping for 4 issues per year. So the next issue is due in March, where there have been few submissions. Here you can see there's a submission email, which is creativecorner@isical.ac.in, where you are please, so the submissions will be on a rolling basis. You keep submitting, and then at the end of 3 months, there's going to be an editorial board who will sort of screen them, and your writings will be up there. So we are here with the first volume today, and there's a menu which has, the home and editors, which we are sort of filling in with the details. As in, when this progresses further. So without further delay, I would like Rashmi, who sort of started everything, to please come and read some of her compositions.
Amachi, grandma. She sits gaping at soap operas, banal and regressive dramas, where the lead in distress, diffident, stoic, braves through marital woes. Amachi chops onions. A tender wife of 16, mother by 18, cooked, cleaned, slogged, cooked, cleaned, sobbed. Her marriage rescued her from poverty at the price of bruises for every blunder. Running after 3 kids, feeding and clothing, negotiating with her husband on behalf of these siblings. Those heaving mango boughs bowed to her resilience and generosity, while she winnowed grains under their shade. Her chores were in perpetual motion, oscillating from wife to nurse as grandpa became weaker. If old age is second childhood, she was his second mother, mourned him too like a child's mother. My mother and I stand on the shoulders of a giant who taught her daughters more than she could learn. Maudlin dramas might have her hooked, but lazy parodies will never compare to the nuanced fortitude that Amachi showed in the face of life that was never fair.
Thank you very much, Rashmi, for a wonderful poem. We all recall Medusa. In Greek mythology, a woman whose hair were snakes and who looked so hideous that anybody looking at her fainted, lost consciousness. So here's a poem by Yamini Krishnan. I want to write a poem about Medusa. Terrified of hissing, my sentences are clipped before they end. My words lose steam and slither to watch from corners, cowering. A cruel wisdom went into making Medusa the beast she became, how she warred with the world of men with her body. I want to relate to this repurposing of the grotesque. I want to be less afraid of reptiles, to find all my hidden venom. Both Srijan's and Tanushri's poems, which are our next readers, have a similar tone, invoking the Durgas and all the women, urging them to fight the Asuras, which are still there in society, to find their hidden venom. Srijan.
নমস্কার। বিশ্বকবি রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুর বলেছেন, সংসারের বাইরে যাহা একটি দ্বিতীয় সংসার তাহাই সাহিত্য। এই উদ্দেশ্যকে সামনে রেখে ISI এর এই ক্রিয়েটিভ কর্নারের উদ্যোগের অংশ হতে পেরে আমি সত্যি খুব আনন্দিত এবং ISI এর কাছে কৃতজ্ঞ এবং আশা রাখি এই কর্নারকে কেন্দ্র করে আরও নতুন নতুন লেখা, চিত্র, প্রতিভা ও ভাবনার বিকাশ ঘটবে। এখানে আমি যে দুটি লেখা দিয়েছি তার প্রথমটি হলো মর্তাসুর। আর এখানে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমি মর্তে থাকা বিভিন্ন অসুরদের সম্পর্কে বলেছি, যারা বর্তমান সমাজের চুরি, দুর্নীতি এবং নারী অবমাননার পিছনে সমাজকে গ্রাস করে ফেলেছে। আর মর্তের দুর্গারা যদি সবসময় সোশ্যাল মিডিয়াতে নিজেকে ব্যস্ত রাখেন, তাহলে সেই সমস্ত অসুরদের বধ হবে কিভাবে? তো সেই প্রশ্ন এবং ব্যঙ্গই আমি এই লেখার মাধ্যমে তুলে ধরেছি। আর দ্বিতীয় লেখাটি হলো আমার দুর্গা, যেখানে আমি আমাদের চিরন্তনী মাদের উদ্দেশ্যে একটি ছোট্ট প্রণাম। আর সংস্কৃতে বলা হয়েছে, পিতুর্পাধি কামাতা গর্ভধারণ পোষণাৎ অতহিত্রিষু লোকেষু নাস্তি মাতৃ সমগুরু। অর্থাৎ মাতা গর্ভধারণ এবং লালন পালনের মাধ্যমে পিতার চেয়েও অধিক ভূমিকার অধিকারী হন এবং এই ত্রিভুবনে মাতার সমান গুরু আর কেউ নাই। তো সেই মাই হলো আমাদের বাস্তব জীবনের দুর্গা। আর তাই মাটির প্রতিমার পাশাপাশি আমাদের এই মায়েদের প্রতি সম্মান, শ্রদ্ধা এবং ভালোবাসা দেখানো উচিত। কবি নজরুলের ভাষায় প্রতিমার মাঝে প্রতিমা বিরাজে। তো সেই বক্তব্যই আমি এই ছোট্ট লেখাটির মাধ্যমে তুলে ধরেছি। আশা করি আপনাদের ভালো লাগবে। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you, Srijan. Tanushree, please.
নমস্কার। অসুর বধের পরেও আশ্বিনের এই শারদ প্রাতে মেঘের ছুটোছুটি, কিশোর মনো কাশের বনে করছে লুটোপুটি। ছোট্ট খুকির মন চলে যায় বইয়ের পাতা ছেড়ে, গলির পরে শিল্পী যেথায় দুর্গা ঠাকুর গড়ে। খুকির মনে প্রশ্ন অনেক আসছে ঘুরে ফিরে, একে একে মা ঠাম্মিকে প্রশ্নগুলো করে। দেয়াল জোড়া মা দুর্গার চিত্রখানি দেখে খুকি জিগায়, অসুর বুঝি পাতাল লোকেই থাকে? সন্ধেবেলা ফেরার পথে পাড়ার মোড়ে যারা চোখের চাওয়ায় শরীর মাপে, তারা তবে কারা? মা দুর্গার সামনে যারা হাত দুখানি জোড়ে পুজোর ভিড়ে হাতের ছোঁয়ায় নগ্ন তারাই করে। নবমীতে কুমারী পুজো, সাজো সাজো রব, পরের দিনই সেই কুমারী ধর্ষিতা এক সব। যে মেয়েটা পড়তে আসে অনেক আশা নিয়ে, স্বপ্ন দেখার মূল্য চোকায় নিজের জীবন দিয়ে। অসুর যদি বধ হয়ে যায় মা দুর্গার হাতে, শোষণ তবে হয় কেন মা ঘরের উমার সাথে? এসব দেখেও দুর্গা ঠাকুর কেন থাকেন চুপ? সমাজের এই অসুররা কি শক্তিশালী খুব? প্রশ্ন শুনে সজল চোখে মা তার মাথা ঝোঁকান, আলতাপাড়ের ঘোমটা টেনে কাল শিটে দাগলো কান। মৃদু কণ্ঠে বলেন খুকিকে মাথায় হাতটি দিয়ে, ঘরের মেয়েরা বাঁচতে শিখেছে ঘরের লক্ষ্মী হয়ে। সমাজের এই অসুরের ভিড়ে বাঁচতে যদি চাও, মা দুর্গার মতন হাতে অস্ত্র তুলে নাও। দুর্গা হয়েই থাকবে তুমি, স্বর্গে হোক বা মর্তে। এই সমাজে বাঁচবে তুমি কেবলই নিজের শর্তে। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you very much, Tanushree. If memory could speak, what would it say? Only lies. Beautiful lies, quietly said with a straight face and a pure heart. And in saying the lies of every color and size and degree of intent, all the lies would be true. As here at the start, where memory might say something as plain and clear as this: all stories begin with a river and end with one. And you might say in reply, yes, I believe this to be true. Arnab's story doesn't begin with a river. It begins with an afternoon and it ends with an afternoon. And what does his memory say? May I please request Arnab to please tell about his story?
Good evening, everyone. I am Arnab Nayak, and I would like to share a few words about my article. My article moves between two afternoons, one in 2006 and another in 2025, to show how digital entertainment has replaced natural human bonding in just 2 decades. The characters in this piece are fictional boys and girls aged 15 to 17. In the older afternoon, they gathered in a narrow lane to play cricket. They sat by the pond with a fishing rod and they found joy in the pages of historical novels. But today, all of that seems like a distant fading memory. They no longer play cricket in the lane, they no longer wait patiently for a fish to bite, and the magic of old novels no longer captivates them. Now they search for joy in mobile games, in web series, and in shallow virtual conversations with friends. Towards the end of the article, I tried to highlight something more emotional, that although the lives and habits of these children have changed completely, nature has not changed at all. The soft red light of the afternoon still returns every day. The old banyan tree still stands quietly near the pond. The lonely crow still cries out in the same sorrowful voice. Everything in nature waits with the same timeless patience. But the painful truth is this: though the beauty of that afternoon remains eternal, there is no one left who comes to feel it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arnab. So please read all the other poems and stories and sketches and paintings that are there in the first volume. Please submit for all the subsequent volumes. The journey has just begun. This inaugural issue of Creative Corner brings together a collage of articles, short stories, poems, pondering about society, life, changing times, urging us to look at the world, our past, our future through novel perspectives. Their creativity brings a whiff of freshness that dispels convention, disperses monotony, and provokes treading untrodden paths and byways. In some ways, with the inauguration of Creative Corner, a long journey has ended, but in more ways, it has just begun. Thank you for being with us on this journey. Thanks very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. We have reached the last segment of today's event, which is the cultural part, conducted by Srimati Monali Mitra Palodhi, Deputy Librarian, ISI.
The first performance is by Oishik Bhattacharya and Srimoy Bhaumik.
hello 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 hello
Hello.
Renu Rena मंदर देख डरे सुदामा मंदर देख डरे सुदामा या तो अति मोरी भाम मंडया या तो अति मोरी भाम मंडया कौन भूप उतरे सुदामा मंदर देख डरे सुदामा मंदर देख डरे
আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে দিন রজনী কত অমৃত রস উথলে যায় অনন্ত গগনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে পান করে রবি শশী অঞ্জলি ভরিয়া সদা দীপ্ত রহে অক্ষয় জ্যোতি পান করে রবি শশী অঞ্জলি ভরিয়া বহিছে ভুবনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে।
एक तरफ तो हाथी झूलत है, दूसरे आसप खड़े। एक तरफ तो हाथी झूलत है, दूसरे आसप खड़े। एक तरफ शिव जी बैठे हीर रतन जड़े। सुदामा मंदर देख डरे, सुदामा मंदर देख डरे।
বসিয়া আছো কেন আপন মনে, স্বার্থ নিমগ্ন কি কারণে। বসিয়া আছো কেন আপন মনে, স্বার্থ নিমগ্ন কি কারণে। চারিদিকে দেখো চাহি হৃদয় প্রসারী, ক্ষুদ্র দুঃখ সব তুচ্ছ মানি। চারিদিকে দেখো চাহি হৃদয় প্রসারী, ক্ষুদ্র দুঃখ সব তুচ্ছ মানি। প্রেম ভরিয়া লহ শূন্য জীবনে আনন্দ ধারা
বহিছে ভুবনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে।
The next performance is by Nandita Sen. She will perform a dance.
মধুর মধুর বথনি বাজে নিভৃত বাসিনী বীণা পানি অমৃত মূরতি মতি বাণী নিভৃত বাসিনী বীণা পানি অমৃত মূরতি মতি বাণী কিরণ কিরণ ছবিখানি পরাণের কথা সে বিরাজে হৃদয় কমল বনমাঝে মধুর মধুরিত জাগে দিবানিশি পিকোপোখরিত দিশি দিশি মধুরিত জাগে দিবানিশি পিকোপোখরিত দিশি দিশি মানস মধুপ পদতলে মুরছি পড়েছে পরিমলে এসো দেবী এসো এ আলোকে একবার দৌড়ে হেরে চোখে এসো দেবী এসো এ আলোকে একবার দৌড়ে হেরে চোখে গোপনে থেকো না থেকো না থেকো না গোপনে থেকো না মনোরথে ছায়াময় মায়াময় সাজে হৃদয় কমল বনমাঝে মধুর মধুর মথুরি বাজে হৃদয় কমল বনমাঝে মধুর
Our next performer is Ahun Chakraborty.
এখানে তার অডিওর দরকার নেই সরি
হ্যালো 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 বাড়ো হ্যালো নেই হ্যালো 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 বাজে গো বিনা বাজে গো বিনা তুম না তুম না বাজে গো বিনা তুম না তুম না বাজে গো বিনা তুম না তুম না বাজে গো বিনা সুরে সুরে বাঁধা আছে তোমারই মায়ার তারে অনুরাগ রাগে তারে সেধেছি গো বারে বারে সুরে সুরে বাঁধা আছে তোমারই মায়ার তারে অনুরাগ রাগে তারে সেধেছি গো বারে বারে সে রাগিনী ভুলো না গো ভুলে যেও না সানিদা নিদা বাধা বারে মাগারে সা বাজে গো বিনা বাজে গো বিনা তুম না তুম না বাজে গো বিনা দুই পারে দুই তীরে একই নদী বহে ধীরে তবুও দুপার কাঁদে দুই পারে দুই তীরে দুই পারে দুই তীরে একই নদী বহে ধীরে তবুও দুপার কাঁদে দুই পারে দুই তীরে তোমারও আমার মাঝে তেমনি প্রেমের নদী কুলু 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 বয়ে যায় নিরবধি তোমারও আমার মাঝে তেমনি প্রেমের নদী কুলু 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 বয়ে যায় নিরবধি দুই পারে দুজনা গো কাঁদি দুজনা সা পামাগাসা পামাগাসা গামানিদা মগনিদা 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 বাদানি সা বাজে গোবিনা বাজে গোবিনা তুম না তুম না বাজে গোবিনা tum ta na 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 tum ta na 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 tum na tum ta na 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 tum ta na 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 tum ta na 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 tum ta na na sa sa ga ga ma ma da da ga ma ta ni ma ma da da ni ni sa sa da da ni ni za za ga ga. Da ni za ga sa ni da ni da ma ga sa ni za da ni za ga ma da ni ma da ni za dum da na 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 dum da na 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 dum na dum da na 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 dum da na 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 dum da na 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 dum na dum da na 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 dum na dum na dum na dum da na dum na dum na dum na dum dum na na dum baze go bina. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahun. Ahun was rightly accompanied by Apurva Pramanik. Please give a round of applause for her. Our next performer is Shamprit Chakraborty.
Hello. হ্যালো হ্যালো নমস্কার কবি সুনীল গঙ্গোপাধ্যায়ের লেখা কবিতা কেউ কথা রাখেনি কেউ কথা রাখেনি ৩৩ বছর কাটলো কেউ কথা রাখেনি ছেলেবেলায় এক বষ্টমী তার আগমনী গান হঠাৎ থামিয়ে বলেছিল শুক্লা দ্বাদশীর দিন অন্তরাটুকু শুনিয়ে যাবে তারপর কত চন্দ্রভূক অমাবস্যা চলে গেল কিন্তু সেই বষ্টমী আজও এলো না ২৫ বছর প্রতীক্ষায় আছি মামাবাড়ির মাঝে নাদের আলী বলেছিল বড় হও দাদা ঠাকুর তোমাকে আমি ৩ প্রহরের বিল দেখাতে নিয়ে যাব যেখানে পদ্ম ফুলের মাথায় সাপ আর ভ্রমর খেলা করে নাদের আলী আমি আর কত বড় হব আমার মাথা এই ঘরের ছাদ ফুঁড়ে আকাশ স্পর্শ করলে তারপর তুমি আমাকে ৩ প্রহরের বিল দেখাবে একটা রয়্যাল গুলি কিনিনি কখনো লাঠি লজেন্স দেখিয়ে দেখিয়ে চুষেছে লস্কর বাড়ির ছেলেরা ভিখারিদের মতো চৌধুরীদের গেটে দাঁড়িয়ে দেখেছি ভেতরের রাস উৎসব সেখানে অবিরল রঙের ধারার মধ্য দিয়ে সুবর্ণ কঙ্কন পরা ফর্সা রমণীরা কত রকম আমোদে হেসেছে আমার দিকে তারা ফিরেও চায়নি বাবা আমার কাঁধ ছুঁয়ে বলেছিল দেখিস একদিন আমরাও বাবা এখন অন্ধ আমাদের দেখা হয়নি কিছুই সেই রয়্যালগুলি সেই লাঠি লজেন্স এসব আমায় কেউ ফিরিয়ে দেবে না বুকের মধ্যে সুগন্ধি রুমাল রেখে বরুণা বলেছিল যেদিন আমায় সত্যিকারের ভালোবাসবে সেদিন আমার বুকেও এরকম আতরের গন্ধ হবে ভালোবাসার জন্য আমি হাতের মুঠোয় প্রাণ নিয়েছি দুরন্ত ষাঁড়ের চোখে বেঁধেছি লাল কাপড় বিশ্ব সংসার তন্ন তন্ন করে খুঁজে এনেছি ১০৮টা নীল পদ্ম তবুও কথা রাখেনি বরুণা এখন তার বুকে কেবল মাংসের গন্ধ এখনো সে যে কোনো নারী কেউ কথা রাখেনি ৩৩ বছর কাটলো কেউ কথা রাখে না নমস্কার
Thank you, Shamprit. Our next performer is Titir Bhor.
হ্যালো 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 रहने दो सिंगार को रहने दो सामने चूल्हा जल रहा है धुआं आंखों में लग रहा है जलन भी है आनंद भी बस आते ही होंगे जल्दी से संध्या पूजा हो जाए जानते हैं वो क्या कहेंगे जैसी हो वैसी ही आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो जैसी हो वैसी ही आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो बाल कर बिखरे हैं सीधी मांग नहीं निकली बांधी नहीं अंगिया के फीते तो भी कोई बात नहीं जैसी हो वैसी ही आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो आकाश पे बादल उमड़ रहे हैं देखा क्या गूंजी नदी किनारे से सब उड़ने लगे हैं देखा क्या बेकार चला कर रखा है सिंगार दिया बेकार जला कर रखा है सिंगार दिया हवा से कांप के बार बार बुझ जाता है सिंगार दिया जैसी हो वैसी ही आ जाओ सिंगार को रहने दो हो सिंगार को रहने दो रहने दो सिंगार को रहने दो
Thank you, Diti. Such a wonderful performance. Our next performer, Oishik Bhattacharya.
হ্যালো হ্যালো
नैनु तनु ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क 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 तुझ संग बैर लगाया ऐसा तुझ संग बैर लगाया ऐसा रहना मैं फिर अपने जैसा हो रहना मैं फिर अपने जैसा मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम तेरा नाम मेरा नाम इश्क ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क 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 अपना नाम बदल दूं या तेरा नाम छुपा लूं या छोड़ के सारी याद में बैराग उठा लूं बस एक रहे मेरा काम इश्क मेरा काम इश्क मेरा काम इश्क मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम तेरा नाम मेरा नाम इश्क ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क ये काली रात जकड़ लूं ये ठंडा चांद पकड़ लूं ओ ये काली रात जकड़ लूं ये ठंडा चांद पकड़ लूं दिन रात के बैरी भेद का रुख मोड़ के मैं रख दूं तुझे संग बैर लगाया ऐसा रहना मैं फिर अपने जैसा हो रहना मैं फिर अपने जैसा मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम इश्क तेरा नाम इश्क मेरा नाम तेरा नाम मेरा नाम इश्क ये लाल इश्क ये मलाल इश्क ये ऐब इश्क ये बैर इश्क Thank you.
Thank you, Ashik. We have reached the last segment of our cultural program, and the last performer of today's event is Shubhangi Shandal. Thank you, Shubhangi. Such a graceful performance it was. Now we have come to the end of the program. I would like to invite Sri Ravinder Kumar, Chief Executive Administration and Finance, on stage to give the vote of thanks.
Good evening. It is my privilege to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all who made this Foundation Day a memorable success. I would like to extend a sincere thanks to our officiating director, Sanghamitra Bandyopadhyay, Chairman Organizing Committee, Professor Pradipta Bandyopadhyay, and Professor Bose. We are deeply honored by the presence of Professor Pranab Birdhan and congratulate for conferment of Professor C.R. Rao Centenary Gold Medal. Our sincere thanks to our esteemed dignitaries, respected faculty, dedicated staff, and our students. A special note of appreciation to organizing committee and ISI club and technical team for their tireless efforts. Lastly, I would like to thank each and every one of you present here today, our esteemed guests, faculty members, staff, and students, for your time, attention, and commitment to making this event a success. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this important event. Thank you.